Hello and welcome back to another off-season episode of the Texas Private School Podcast. As always, I am one half of your hosting crew, Wes Tolleson, coming to you from Sunnyvale, Texas. Joining me, as always, is Walker Lott, tuning in from College Station, Texas, the beautiful home of the fighting Texas Aggies. Walker, how's College Station? How's off-season prep? How's everything surrounding TXPS going?
Oh, it's going great. We put out I can't tell them what we're recording, but we just put out our Division 2 episode a couple days ago. So excited about that. And just keep on going. The weeks are starting to climb down to where it's getting closer and closer to football. Fall camp just started. So that's awesome. All the people are getting back into pads, getting back into football. So it's getting to the greatest time of the year, man. We're all excited for it.
Absolutely. We were talking before we started recording. We've got kind of our tentative list of games set that we want to go to for the first few weeks. And I mentioned that it made me really excited because no matter how much I do this or how far away I get from having actually played high school football, there's nothing to me like going and covering games. It's like my favorite thing I do all year. Just thinking about doing it just gets me really, really excited. So that all being said, we are as excited as y'all are to start the new season and show out. We are just equally as excited to cover games again and get back into the swing of things. So it'll be here before we know it. The end of August is coming up fast. We're already in August right now. So let's make the most of it and have an absolute time this upcoming season. But that being said, if you haven't already guessed by the title of this episode, this will be our Division 3 and Division 4 preview. This is the third out of 4 previews we're doing. We will do this, and then we will do our SBC preview next week. We will have Jack Klosek and Alex Swade helping us out with that. I think I just said both of their names right, Walker, for the first time ever. Klosek, LaSwade. Yeah, I did. That is 100% the first time we've gotten both of those right in one fell swoop. But that being said, we'll have SBC done next week, and then after that, we're into covering games. It's hard to believe that it's that close and time for that to happen, but we are there indeed. But as for today, like I mentioned, we are going to quickly go through our Division 3 and Division 4 preview. We will start, obviously, with Division 3, and what better way than to get straight into Division 3 District 1. So, our preseason rankings for Division 3 District 1 follow this. At number 1, we have Trinity Christian School of Lubbock. At number 2, we have Arlington Grace Prep. At number 3, we have Colleyville Covenant. At number 4, we have Lake Country Christian School. And at number 5, we have Trinity Christian Willow Park. So, Walker, this is more or less what you would expect coming out of last year. Both TCS Lubbock and Grace Prep were deep playoff teams. And then everything else seems to fall pretty naturally after that. The only big drop we see is Lake Country going from second in the district all the way down to fourth in our preseason predictions. I think most people that follow private school could more or less guess what our reasoning is for that. But what do you think regarding Lake Country's drop down to fourth, as well as overall the preview for District 1?
We'll talk about Lake Country in it for a second. The biggest kind of storyline of this district is both the Daughter twins leaving Lake Country and going to Fort Worth All Saints. So, probably the two best players on that team transfer out. And how do they kind of come to terms with that? They still have Keen Spangler there. They got Gannon McElroy, the class of 2025 quarterback, maybe, for them coming back into this team. So they have a couple guys that I'm excited about, but yeah, it's going to be hard for them to replace the talent of those two guys. And how do they do that? And how do they compete? And that's going to be a really tough question for them. But, I'm a big fan of Keaton Spangler. I think his film from last year was really, really good. But looking at this overall district, Willow Park is kind of going downhill from the days of the Ryan Hollingsworth days back in the day. Who he started at Lake Country, and then he transferred over to TCA Willow Park, and his younger brother took over at Lake Country quarterback, and now they're both kind of graduated and moved on. So what does Willow Park do now? And it's also hard for Willow Park because let's talk about we're going to talk about Willow Park here for a second. Willow Park has the struggle that they also have to deal with Weatherford Christian, because
Mhm.
Weatherford is right down the road, and so a lot of the talent that is kind of transferred into that area has now transferred into Weatherford Christian, and so Willow Park, and if there's like a Lido guy that Willow Park kind of wants, they usually go to All Saints or they go to Weatherford Christian or something like that. So they're kind of stuck in that middle area where, all right, what do we do type of thing. And it's kind of, you can kind of see the transition down, but that area always has really good talent. So you never know with them, but Colleyville, this is the first year under Vernon Wells as a new head coach, right? So that's going to be huge for them. They lose Christian Wells and lose Enaueta, which was probably the best player in private school the past couple of years. So they lose the Michigan man, and now what does this team look like next year? And so that's going to be interesting to watch. But Grace Prep without Jalen Talton, and replacing Jalen Talton is probably one of the best athletes to ever come through that school. I mean, that's going to be hard for them to replace. So it's going to be interesting to see. But they do have Illinois State commit Kane Leahy there, true D1 guy. And they also have a kid that they have Mathis, the younger brother, and they're trying to figure out the quarterback position. But they have one other guy that I forget his name. Keep talking, Wes, while I remember this guy's name. But uh, yeah, they have a couple guys, but TCS does definitely looks like the team to beat in that district.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. In making the rankings for this, the thing that stuck out to me for TCS was they only lose 8 guys. There's only 16% of their roster that turns over from 2022 to 2023. And yeah, good Lord, there's big names that you lose, like Marcus Ramon Edwards, etc. However, there's still a really core group of guys, starting with Eli Reeves at quarterback, that you bring back for TCS Lubbock, and especially with guys like Riley White taking over as head coach for Kevin Spiller. I really believe in the program there at Lubbock, and I think they're going to be really good. I think they're going to make a deep playoff run, and they will ultimately go as far as DC lets them. So I think it'll be a good run for sure.
But Joseph Irvin from the 2026 guy, he's 5'11, 175 as a freshman or about to be a sophomore. So he looks like a really good player. And we saw him at the Tap 7-on-7. So he looked impressive. So him, the Mathis, Leahy, and also Bryce Prince, the 2025 running back, is also going to be some weapons they have around the team. They also have Nolan Johnson on the offensive line. So that's going to be a huge piece for them. But the question is how you're going to replace Jalen Talton. And so that's going to be interesting to see. And without him, it's going to be difficult. But yeah, and you already talked about TCS. So
Yeah, certainly. It's going to be interesting. I think just like last year, well, I say just like last year, Blake Country finished second in the district, but I think ultimately it's going to be a fight between TCS and Grace Prep for who gets first. And after that, the it's going to fall as it does. I don't think it's going to be super significant, at least on the overall playoff picture. I think this is a TCS and Grace Prep race, and everything else falls more or less by the wayside. But that being said, that is our outlook on Division 3 District 1. And keep in mind, District 3 or Division 3 and Division 4, the teams are mixed in districts. So districts will have a mixture of D3 and D4 teams in there. We're just splitting out. We're not looking at it at districts with D3 and D4 teams. We're splitting the districts up, the divisions up by divisional teams. It's hard to explain. It's pretty convoluted when you get into D3 and D4. Just know that whenever we're talking about D3 districts, there's only D3 teams we're talking about. Whenever we're talking about D4 districts, we're only talking about D4 teams. That's surprisingly, that's as simple as I can make it for you. If you want to go into TAP's bylaws and looks how it's set up, be my guest, but this is how it's going. Now, moving into District 2, the rankings for Division 3 District 2, surprise, surprise, Dallas Christian comes in at number 1. At number 2, we have Bullard Brookhill. At number 3, we have Dallas Covenant. And at number 4, we have McKinney Christian Academy. I mean, Walker, there's not a lot that needs to be said here, at least not in terms of number 1. Dallas Christian's coming in at first. As per usual, I think the closest district game that DC played last year was a 40-point win for them. I don't think anyone comes within 40 points of DC this year. But that being said, there's an interesting dynamic, at least between Brookhill and Covenant, in my opinion. It took some conversing between us to decide how those rankings fell. But I mean, what do you think our rationale is behind putting Brookhill at that second spot? Because it's close regardless.
Yeah, I mean, Covenant Brook Hill has always been a team that you have to kind of worry about every year. Maybe not in that district according to DC, but in most games they play, they're a tough team to face. And Jonah McCown is going to be the head of that guy who has varsity experience from last year and threw the ball really well at our TX quarterback retreat. And so having him at the helm is going to be a very valuable asset for them. Yeah, having Jonah McCown at the helm will be very valuable for them. And is it Xavier Kendricks, the other athlete they have over there? Is that the guy?
I last I heard there was some they're not 100% sure if he's re-enrolling. I think it looks like he is, but yeah, if he's back, that's huge for them. He's a fantastic athlete. Also, they're bringing in linebacker Marcelo Martinez, a class of 25 from Monterrey, Mexico. That's always the interesting dynamic with Brook Hill. I know because I went to Brook Hill for a couple of years. I grew up right down the road from them. They have people forget they have that boarding school on their campus. So they get a lot of international recruits to come and play football for them. And a lot of them don't end up panning out super well, but some of them do, and some of them are really good. So I will be interested to see how Marcelo Martinez turns out for them. But yeah, Walker, Xavier Kendrick is a fantastic athlete, and I really hope to see him suit up for Brook Hill.
Looking at Dallas Covenant, they might battle for that second spot with Brook Hill, and that's going to be an interesting battle where I'm not going to say his name because his last name is very hard to pronounce, but it's James Prediscus, or you read the name and you'll
Close
get
enough.
what. Yeah, close enough. So he was a very valuable guy, made the Alt District and maybe All State last year. Ben Golick, Dobson Biard. Were all really good players for them last year. So they have guys that are going to be interesting to watch next year. But um, it's just going to be interesting to see how that battle for second place in that district faces, because then how that goes is, and it goes in the playoffs, your seeding, and so those spots really do matter, and it's going to be very, very valuable to see how they all face. McKinney Christian, they have three quarterbacks, or a couple quarterbacks last year that were really good, but they still don't have a guy like Zeke Long last year or 2 years ago that really helped
Well,
that team a tremendous. So
Blake McGraw as well from I think it's 3 years ago now. If I'm
yeah,
getting that old.
because they have Cash Etheridge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Cash Etheridge, and so guys like that it's still very valuable, but it's just going to be interesting to see how they face in that district after uh not a great season last year. But hey, they got a new logo for their athletics,
That's
so that's
nice.
cool.
Their only win last year was against Shelton, and Shelton has now been relegated to independent. So I don't know where you find a win for McKinney on that schedule. It's sure as heck not going to be DC, probably
Yeah,
not Brook Hill or Covenant. So I don't know. I wish the best for McKinney, but it's probably not their year unless the
yeah,
reincarnation of Blake McGraw comes back at quarterback. But
yeah. Hopefully, like a guys like Cash Etheridge. I found the other quarterback, Drew Denton, and Noah Wheeler can help him out a little bit. So hopefully, shout out some of those guys over there. But yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to be their year.
Yeah, but we will see. I mean, especially with the just numerous transfers DC's bringing back in for no reason, might I add. Without any of those guys, they're going to destroy this district and win state. I don't know why we need 18 more people starting, but it's better to be safe than sorry. DC's going to win every district game by at least 40 points. They're going to win every playoff game besides a state game by at least 35, and state's probably going to be at least a 30-point win as well. But you can't ever say anything for certain until the game's played on the field. So I guess we will wait and see how bad DC runs away with this district. But moving on to the second to last
Do we
district in Division Three.
do you want to talk about DC for a second? I
Sure,
feel like
absolutely,
I guess we should, right? Because give them
probably.
some love. Um, DC is playing that Louisiana school like week 2. That's going to be an
I did see
interesting
that.
battle. So, they play that scheme team in Louisiana or somewhere near the Louisiana border. So that's going to be fun for them. Give them
I
really
think
good
is it
competition.
Tobler?
No, Tolar is the team they're playing
Tobler.
from like North Fort Worth, I heard. And so that's going to be a tougher game,
Yeah,
but
2A state finalists last year.
yeah. So they're going to be a good game. That's going to be a good one for them to kind of compete against some of the better teams in the Louisiana area. Give them some good teams to compete. They also play Lynch and DC, Bishop Dunn to start the year, so they have some good games. But It's going to be interesting to see. We'll talk about Cyprus later of a guy or two they brought, but I mean, we can all assume that they should be in the state championship coming this December. But how that journey is going to get there is going to really define this team this year of how kind of excellence they are this year. And I mean, they are led by, of course, Purdue commits Speedy Nettles, now Air Force commit, Porter Nix, and shout out to Porter, but they don't have Cole Burker anywhere, and that's going to be a huge loss. But they lose Zach Hernandez, Luke Carney's at the helm. You still got, you got Speedy, you have Porter. Those are going to be the guys kind of lead you into the promised land. And, they bring Jaden Davis over from 6A school, and that's going to be a huge weapon for their rushing attack. The Crawl brothers, Shatori, are going to play both sides of the ball probably, and they're going to dominate as well coming over from Cedar Hill Trinity Christian. What other, Wes? Do you remember any others?
The combination of Carney, his threat to run paired with Davis, like on an option attack, is nasty, and also Carney throwing to Speedy Nettles. That's his dual threat ability is going to be very, very important, and his efficiency is going to determine how good this DC offense is going to be, and I think it's going to be great. I mean, even against their toughest matchups, in my opinion, against Tolar and Bishop Lynch, I think DC is going to be the favorites because they're not one-dimensional with Carney under center. They can run the ball, whether it's with Davis or with Carney. Carney can throw to Nettles. They can spread it out. They can go compact like DC loves doing and just running it down your throat. I mean, it's an offense that you can't pigeonhole into one thing, and I think that's going to be really good for them. I don't think the game against Dunn is going to be as close as it was last year. I think they're going to take Dunn behind the woodshed. Honestly, I think this is like a 28-point win at least for DC. But yeah, I just say that because somebody on our Q&A yesterday said DC is going undefeated, and I was trying to think of like a kind of a smirk response to it, as I like to be sarcastic sometimes. And I looked at the schedule and I was like, I can see it happening. I was like, the toughest games are going to be Tolar and Bishop Lynch, and I have DC as favorites in both of those. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I heard that they're going to use more of a tight end this year with Jahaden Crawl going to be a tight end. So that's going to be interesting. Something we haven't seen from DC in a while, but him with his brother Katori on the other side. And, they have DeCoris Taylor, first team all district from Garland coming back and, coming into this team. And, we saw in our the IG story that there's going to be like 7 new senior starters on this team this year. So, transfers are the name of the game, and DC has always played their cards right with it. And it looks like another great season with a lot of special talent over there. And I think they're going to be more deep than they have been in a while with a lot of guys in a different areas. So it's going to be like your first team is going to be deadly, especially in this division. But your second guys, if someone, knock on wood, if someone gets hurt, you have guys to step up and take their place that are going to be as good, so it's going to be a really good year for DC, I think. And we have to give you your minutes because you love us and we love you. So here's your couple of minutes about y'all.
As the saying goes, the rich get richer. So that's kind of my synopsis on Division 3 District 2. But moving into Division 3 District 3, our rankings in terms of the Southern District go as follows. At number 1, we have San Antonio Holy Cross. At number 2, we have Geneva School of Bernie. At number 3, Schertz John Paul II. And at number 4, Corpus Christi John Paul II. So
can you tell me where Schertz John Paul II is? What city?
Schertz is right outside. It's right outside Austin, is it not?
San Antonio, but yes.
San Antonio, that's what I meant.
Anyways, continue your story. I just wanted to quiz you.
That's funny because the JP2 Schertz basketball team is the team that almost assaulted me in the hotel about a year and a half ago after the state basketball game because of what Ryan Schroeder said on this podcast. I almost got jumped by the entire JP2 Schertz team. I'm going to retell that really quickly because the story's hilarious. I just walk in, Ryan makes these inflammatory comments, but there's no chance JP2 wins this game unless it's the Plano JP2, and they make a huge upset. And they're tripping me on the sidelines. I get done. Fast forward like 5 hours. I'm exhausted. I've covered more games in a single day than I've ever done in my life. I'm just tired. I'm dragging myself back to the hotel to recuperate and get ready for another day. the sliding doors open and I look and it's the whole JP2 shirts team looking back at me. I'm like, I'm gonna kill myself. But that was just a very fun memory to look back on. But bringing it back to football, this is Holy Cross's district to lose. I mean, with Gibby Alvarado and Holy Cross, retaining as many guys as they have, even though they lose guys, talented guys like Rudy Rodriguez, I still think they're poised to win this district. I think a team like Bernie Geneva, like Walker with Jason Rosenthal and Logan Fritcher, is going to be very good. So, what do you think about that dynamic with Holy Cross and Geneva School of Bernie? Because I think those are the two teams that are best poised to take this district.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Like, if there's anyone like one to watch, it's going to be Geneva, and it's going to be an interesting one to see because, uh, Geneva's always had talent. They've always had a couple of guys here and there that really stand out in games, and they play a pretty tough schedule. I saw of playing some pretty tough teams that most teams don't play. Um, like I believe they started with Hyde Park for week 1. And that's
Mhm.
that's tough, man. That's really, really tough. And so guys like that, that's gonna be I'm sorry, I'm trying to find it. Yeah. Nope, that is volleyball. Yeah. They play Hyde Park, they play Shiner, and then they, go into district. But Geneva, I mean, they have a pretty tough schedule. And Rosenthal was a pretty good quarterback. He was invited to a retreat, and Logan Fritcher was our underclassman of the year last year, and he's a really, really good player. And so having guys like that are going to be really big for the program and for them to succeed. And with a lot of talent leaving in San Antonio, you could watch this Geneva team might go and compete. Oh wait, never mind. Logan Fritcher now left to go to Bernie High School, so never mind with him. Um, that's hilarious.
You finding that out live in the middle of recording is one of my favorite moments that we've had so far.
So never mind that. This might get cut out. We'll see. I might leave
No,
it in
keep
because
it.
I might leave it in because it's funny. But that's never mind. That's a huge loss for Geneva School Bernie. Um,
I was about to say it's probably a coin flip between Holy Cross and Geneva for 1 and 2, and now it's a little bit less than a coin flip.
I mean, he had last year. I mean, we're not going to talk more about him because he left, but
Yeah, might
he
as
had,
well.
he had 10 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, first team All State, and he only did it in like a couple games because he got hurt. So, I mean, that's a huge loss for Geneva. But uh, they still have Jacob Rosenthal, the couple weapons I saw at Texas Tap 7-on-7, so that's gonna be good for them. But yeah, I think it's gonna be difficult for both teams because now both teams really lose a lot. And so who do both teams have guys who step up to the plate? There's guys like Marcus Perez, JJ Acosta at Holy Cross that it could be intriguing prospects, Daniel Alonso, but it's going to be interesting to see how Geneva kind of do this year because I could see them kind of step up to the plate and have a good time this year. So
I agree. I think it's going to definitely go 1 and 2. I think with the John Pauls, I think one John Paul is going to beat the other, and that's the only win in district combined. Those two are going to get. I think one will go 0-3 and one will go 1-2. Like last year. It's not me trying to dog them. It's just they're not nearly as good as Holy Cross and Geneva. And if one of them do end up knocking off Holy Cross or Geneva, I hope I get chirped all day on Instagram, Twitter, or X, Reddit, every social media platform you can think of. But as for August the 3rd, 2023, I think Holy Cross and Geneva are the only players in this district. But that being said, that is Division 3, District 3. Now we move into the final district in Division 3, District 4, the Houston area. So in terms of the TXPS power rankings for Division 3 District 4, it goes as such. At number 1, we have the Cypress Christian Warriors. At number 2, we have Bay Area. At number 3, we have Legacy Prep Magnolia. And at number 4, we have Brentwood Christian Academy. So, Walker, not a ton of surprise here. Cypress Christian hasn't lost this district. They haven't lost a district game, might I add, since 2019. So I think it's been a good 4 years since Cypress Christian has lost the district game. They run this district. They always have. Bay Area always has some competition there, and then Magnolia Legacy Prep and Brentwood are just, it's kind of like the JP2s of District 3. They're just kind of there. But what are your thoughts on Cypress Christian's chances as well as the overall picture of District 4?
Well, Cypress's chances got a whole lot better, not in just district, but not going to say winning it, but competing in it with this is shout out to Coach Hogan. He's always had a couple guys here and there that transferred in. This is probably one of his biggest that he's ever gotten is John Kelly from Cy-Fair coming over to Cypress Christian. That's huge. I talked to some of the guys I know in Houston, like recruiting like circuit, and I was like, all right, I've seen this kid play, but like, remind me how good is this kid? And they're all like, yeah, he's a true Power 5 running back. And having him transfer into a TAPS Division 3 school is huge. But I mean, Cypress should be getting these type of dudes. There's so many guys from the Cypress area, and Cy-Fair ISD is so huge. So they should be getting guys like this all the time. But John Kelly coming over, who's been offered by multiple Power 5 schools, is a huge addition to the Cypress Christian squad, who lose Maxwell Landrum to graduation, who was their team on offense. He comes over and it really excites a lot of people in the South. I would not be surprised if we see a 2,000-yard season from John Kelly this year. It's going to be huge. It's huge. When I saw that news, I went, holy cow, that's insane. He's a 10.75, 100-meter type of player at 6'1". I mean, he's a big back, but he's strong. He's shifty. And he comes from a powerhouse like Cy-Fair, who he was kind of toting the back with another guy last year. And so being able to now kind of, this is his team and kind of take over is going to be huge for him. And, so they got another transfer, Dominic Locandro from Cy-Fair as well. He comes over to play receiver, 4.7 40 at 5'9". And they have another kid. I forget his name.
DJ Willis.
Yes, I believe that's him. Yeah. So he's another. Yeah. So he's another kid that came in and transferred in. So
have you seen that dude? That dude is huge.
Yeah, he's a huge kid. And so having these guys on this team where you already have, guys like Jacob Rauch and other guys, come on, give me names. Jacob Rauch and Andrew Owen, I believe he's still there. Z Cohen, of course, is still there. The all-state offensive lineman. So they have guys in place. Brody Creek Johnson, the kicker, but athlete for them as well. They have dudes all over this team to really make a run back to the state championship pretty easily if they play their cards right. And you got to give credit to Coach Hogan, man. He's recruiting the area well in Cypress, which is a talent-filled area, which you've seen the likes of Connor Wegman, Harold Perkins, Vernon Broughton. I can't believe that's my third name I thought of, but guys like that, where there are so many dudes over the years that have come from the Cypress area, where if you're a Power 5 school in the state, you have to target this area of talent. Coach Hogan should be doing the same thing in this area. And I'm glad he's finally doing it, because this helps their chances tremendously this year. So with John Kelly really there, that's huge, man. That's really huge. And as we both know, Coach Hogan team is not good without their star running back there every single year. And he looks like to be the guy for them for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I agree. I have to assume that Hogan saw, the arms that DC have been accumulating just every year since I can remember. And just kind of, he goes to his people and he's like, listen, I have to be able to have full resources to make this happen, or we're going to get blown out of the water year after year at state. And the talent pool he's recruiting from, like you mentioned, in the Cypress area is just as good and probably better than even Mesquite. I mean, there's no excuse if he has the resources that he can go out and get guys to Cypress Christian. So I think we're witnessing the beginning of an incredible arms race and not even Cold War, legit war between Cypress and DC that could stretch into the foreseeable future. I'm excited.
Because it's not just Cypress. If you just go a little bit south, you run into the Katy area. Or if you go a little bit north, you can run into the Tomball area a little bit. Cypress is in a great location in Houston, where it's not right in inner Houston, but he's on the edge to where they can hit the outskirts edge, where There's, a good amount of money on the outside. So there's people that probably can pay for private school, and also a lot of talent on the outside too. So if Hogan is smart about it and plays his cards right, this could be a kind of a start of a dynasty on one side of the bracket for Cypress Christian.
Oh, that makes all the private school and especially D3 a lot better if there
Oh
is
yeah.
kind of if there's a counterweight to DC. I didn't
And
even really think about it that much. No, we sat down to talk about it, but I think like I don't know. I think DC as of now is better, and especially
yes.
because they're much deeper. I mean, I think while the top end talent of Cypress Christian is as good as DC's top end talent, I think DC has like 7 or 8 more guys in those spots than Cypress does.
No,
But
yes.
I
They're
I
DC's still the top dogs, but Cypress competing, and we saw that game was really, really close in the state championship. DC, went out and won, but Coach Hogan knows how to coach, and he schemed really, really well for against DC last year. And if you get some guys that are Power 5 guys like John Kelly over there, they can compete much better than they have in the years past.
Man, I cannot wait to watch John Kelly run the football. I can't imagine what that dude's about to do to Legacy, Prep, Magnolia, Brentwood, and Bay Area. No disrespect to any of those guys, all good teams in their own right. Especially Legacy, Prep, Magnolia bringing Prazak back, Walker, who the former Cypress Christian athlete, younger
Yeah,
brother of Tyler Prazak. We were very high on him when he played. I am assuming he's still at Kilgore College, unless
believe
informed
so.
otherwise. But
Believe so.
but yeah. Kyle Prazak Walker back at Legacy Prep Magnolia. That takes them from fourth place finish to a projected third place finish in our rankings. What are your thoughts on Legacy Prep Magnolia moving
Yeah.
back up to that third spot?
I mean, they've always had a couple of guys over there. They helped him compete with the Prazak, his older brother, now him, and he was a good receiver for Cypress last year. And also, they will have Wyatt Francis at the quarterback position, and it looks like they have a younger brother, Blake Prazak. So there's a third of them over there for the Prazak family, and they will compete really well in that district. So I'm excited to see how they do. Um, and also, I'll give one last bit of love to this district is Austin Brentwood, who uh it's going to be interesting to see how they do this year, but I am excited because their top player, I forget his name, but transferred to Central Texas Christian this year. Cat dragged in.
I almost got him.
Yeah. But Brentwood has a quarterback who we're kind of excited about, 2026 quarterback Braden Jennings, who I've heard good things about, and his film looks pretty good. So they look like they might have a pretty good quarterback down there in Austin. So he's definitely one to watch in that district.
I think so. I think District 4 is more or less the same as District 2. I think Cypress is going to run away with it, and then it'll be a battle for second between probably Bay Area and either Legacy Prep Magnolia or Brentwood, whoever decides to come up out of that 3 and 4 spot. But it'll be interesting for certain. But that being said, that actually concludes our Division 3 preview. So we will move right into Division 4, starting with Division 4, District 1.
This episode is sponsored by High Point Signs and Apparel. High Point Signs and Apparel create and customize products that turn heads and
And the TXPS preseason rankings for Division 4 District 1 go as follows. At number 1, who else? Lubbock Christian School. At number 2, we have Dallas First Baptist. At number 3, we have Munster Sacred Heart. At number 4, we have Fort Worth Temple Christian. At number 5, we have Bishop Tyler TK Gorman. At number 6, we have Mercy Culture Prep. And at number 7, we have Bishop Waco Riker. So that is our thoughts on District 1. In terms of the top 3, it's stacked, Walker, between Lubbock Christian, First Baptist, and Munster Sacred Heart. Lubbock Christian and First Baptist are 2 of my favorites to win state in D4. First Baptist is my sleeper pick, kind of. It's hard to call them a sleeper pick when they have like 5 D1 guys on their roster, but we have the ranking set out. What are your initial thoughts on how we set this out?
I really like how it's laid out, man. I think this is the right way to do it. The battle for first place is going to be a very interesting one, which we had to put Lubbock Christian there because they are the reigning state champions. But I think First Baptist, with all the talent they have, is going to give them run for their money. And depending on where that's played, Wes, you might find your way over to First Baptist Lubbock Christian.
I think so.
Um, but you can never count out Ryan Swarzinski and Munster. They have a really good squad. They lose a pretty good senior class led by Eli Hess, I believe. So they have a couple guys that they had to graduate. But when Swarzinski is still there, you can never count Munster Sacred Heart out. And it looks like that again this year. He's a tremendous athlete over there. But I mean, First Baptist probably will have the most explosive offense in the state, especially in D4. But Lubbock Christian is just such a well balanced team, and overall, and they got guys like, of course, their quarterback Welker Horn, who kind of stood out to me after the QB retreat, who threw the ball really, really well. They have Luke Lee, Josh Rogers, running back Brady Simmons, and Matt Pascuzzi, guys like that. So they have a couple guys that could be something this year. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do and how do they, compete. But Cooper Carthel is a guy that I'm really excited about. 2026 wide receiver DB for them. He's 6'2", and was at our QB retreat making really good plays. And he really stood out to me at Texas Tech's the 7-on-7 tournament in College Station that I watched. So guys like that are going to be guys you need to watch out for this Lubbock Christian team. They look good, man. They look really good, and I'm excited for them this year.
I think so. Even with the loss of literally who is their entire team pretty much back to Townsend, I think, the culture that Softly is building there, as well as the athletes you mentioned, they're going to be just fine. And you see that in the form of a state 7-on-7 berth in College Station. So I don't think Lubbock
And
Christian's
they
going anywhere.
And they competed well in that Texas 7-on-7. They beat West Orange Stark, who's one of the premier programs in the state. Like,
That's
I'll stop
wild.
now, but that's a Lubbock Christian has as a passing attack that you need to watch out for. And Welker Horn, I didn't know, but he kind of is he's the younger brother of Tucker Horn, who I believe played at Trinity or is playing at Trinity. So like they have guys, man. They have really good players, and I'm excited for this.
They absolutely do. I think they're going to have teams like First Baptist on their heels. I mean, First Baptist with receivers, Dominic Sadu Robinson, Elijah Case, and Caleb Mitchell, quarterback Hunter McCoy, defensive lineman Abuchi Godwin, offensive/defensive lineman. I think it's Corey Thomas. That's correct, right? That sounds right. Corey Thomas.
Yes, that sounds
Yes.
right to me.
But I mean, just so many weapons. Mark Raysom at running back. I mean, if they can get it all put together, I think Lubbock Christian right now is a better cohesive unit in terms of a team. I think we've seen that First Baptist clearly has better front end athletes, but I haven't seen them gel together as a team quite yet. I think they will, and I think the addition of a guy like Connor McCoy, who is one of my favorite players in the state, I think as good of an athlete as he is, he's an even better locker room guy, and that's somebody that you want taking snaps and playing quarterback for them. So that all to say, I think McCoy is going to do a lot for them in terms of like bringing a cohesiveness to the team. And I think First Baptist is going to be on Lubbock Christian's heels. I mean, I am really, really excited to see what they can do because the talent's there. It's just, will they gel as a team? And I think they will. Other than that, the district's interesting. The last thing I want to bring up, or the second to last thing, the first thing is Mercy Culture Prep is going to be interesting. We moved them up from 6th from dead last solely because of John Raybook coming to running back. The former Grapevine Faith standout now is in Division 4. I think has a chance to just run all over D4. So that's going to be interesting to see if Mercy Culture can utilize him in a way that allows them to win, I mean, at least one district game. That'll be an improvement from last year. And then Bishop Gorman. So the curious case of Bishop TK Gorman, the school that I am all too familiar with as I grew up down the road from them and played them every year since I was in the 6th grade. But I'm not going to go into a ton of history. Long story short, there was a problematic bishop associated with Bishop Gorman that was more or less kind of dismantling the school. That bishop's now gone. There was a lot of people leaving because of those actions. And now, from what I've heard, Gorman is getting more athletes back in. So we could be seeing a sort of resurgence from Tyler TK Gorman. I really do. I hope they do. If you would have asked me this question 5 years ago, I would have told you I hope Gorman burns to the ground. But I'm older, I'm wiser, I'm more mature. I want to see all the Tyler schools succeed, and I really do hope this is a start of a resurgence from Gorman. I hope they finish top 4 this year. And I think they'll have a chance to. We have them slotted at 5th right now in our preseason rankings. I hope they can go as high as 4th. But I think 1, 2, and 3 with Lubbock, First Baptist, and Munster are pretty well set in stone. Walker, I just basically had a monologue of my own. Is there anything else that you want to hit on before we get out of District 1?
Yeah, of course. I want to talk about my Fort Worth school, Temple Christian, who they were it was an interesting year for them last year. Remember, they competed pretty well and they caused some damage into that district where you're like, all right, what are they gonna do? And and they ended up being third last year with 5-2 record. And they have a couple guys returning back. Luke Sinceros, who was our defensive lineman of the year last year, returns for his senior year, and that's going to be a big one for them. Maddox Caffey will be back, who was a really, really good underclassman player for them coming back for his junior year. Ryan Elias is going to be a sophomore who was a really, really good freshman last year. I believe he was an all district player. And guys like that, there's a MJ Moses and guys like that. There's dudes over there that can cause some havoc in this district again. And I'm excited for them. We have them at their 4th spot, but watch out for that Temple Christian team to kind of maybe cause some chaos in that district. So, and then last team, Riker. It's going to be interesting to see how they do, because I don't know if they have much talent since the days of, oh man, Wes, who was that kid?
I know who you're talking about. I can't think of his name.
Well, they had 2 guys. One is now a walk-on at TCU. Another one went to play at University of Idaho. And since they have
That's
that
right when
team,
we started. That was in
yeah,
2020.
yeah. So those 2 guys were the kind of the leaders of that team and brought them to a state championship, but didn't win it. And then they graduated in the team since then, lost their head coach, and they've kind of tried to figure out what that team is looking like for the future. So hopefully Riker gets back on their feet and kind of has this steady progress, because they are the only private school in that entire Waco area besides 6-man Waco Life Oak or whatever. So they should be a pretty good squad and have some talent here and there, like the kid from Waco La Vega a couple years ago. So hopefully they can come together and maybe compete. And you see, there's a guy there that stands out that we don't know about just yet.
Hopefully so, as long as they don't beat Tyler TK Gorman. I'm okay with that. But that is all for D4 District 1. We now move into the second of 3 districts in District 2, and our rankings for that go as follows. At number 1, a little surprise for some people, we have Hollitzville Sacred Heart, followed by Shiner St. Paul, the first time that we have ever not picked them first in their district. At number 3, we have Central Texas Christian. At number 4, we have New Braunfels Christian Academy. So, Walker, we went back and forth a little bit regarding who should be number 1 in this district. St. Paul winning 4 straight state titles. Guys like Zach Johnson and Noah Bodeker never lost. They won state all 4 years of high school. They made it to the state final last year, and now we're not even picking them to win their district. Speak to some of the rationale behind that.
Oh, I mean, Shiner is, the historic program that has always been led by Jake Waxsmith. Well, now it's not. And that's the huge thing. His son leaves and graduates, and he probably wanted to take a step away and, maybe take a time for football, because he's done everything you can at this level, man. Whatever, like 5, 6 state championships under his belt, and 4 straight at one time. And so he goes and just is staying as the AD. And now Mike Jackson, who started his career at Shiner St. Paul, comes back and is now coaching at Shiner St. Paul. And that's going to be huge for them. But they lose a couple guys, but they return Zane Barta, Nate Bodeker, Sam Perez. But losing a talented senior class and that the staple in that area of Jake Waxsmith, taking a step back. I think has to move him down at least a peg. Well, Hallettsville Sacred Heart returns a lot, including D1 Offord, Nick Angerstein, Cole Duty, and Brady Haas. And so guys like that, I think it just makes sense. It's going to be interesting to see how Shiner does with a new head coach, but a guy who's familiar with the area, but still a new head coach. And but Hallettsville, I mean, they look good and they have a lot of talent. And Nick Angerstein is a kicker that's going to go play Division I football, but he's also a tremendous athlete for that school. And so having those three guys, it's going to be huge for Hallettsville. So.
I agree. I think like so many other districts, this is a two-horse race. I think, Central Texas Christian was what looked very good for about half the season last year, and then
Yeah.
they just couldn't really get it done in district. New Braunfels wasn't really anything to write home about. We're both very high on Parker Joseph. We think he's a great prospect, but there's not a ton else there, especially when you're competing with as much talent that's brought back by Hollettsville and the culture, which we talk about so much, of Shiner St. Paul. I think it's a two-horse race. And I think Hollettsville's a team, people don't talk about them a whole lot, but I think they're a team that brings back enough talent that you could look up and see them in the state game and have a good chance to win it. I think I really like what you said, Brady Haas, Nicholas Angerstein. I think they've got a ton of guys. And I think behind them and Cole Duty, I think they have a shot. If there's ever a year for them to make a run at the state championship, I think this is one for sure. So I think it's going to be interesting. Any closing thoughts on Division 4 District 2?
Yeah, Central Texas Christian, they lose Ethan Allerkamp. They lose Reagan Ragsdale, who was their team last year. And I believe they have a transfer from Austin Brentwood. I forget his name. And there's not a guy on their huddle that I remember the name, but he transferred over, who was like their star player, transferred to there, I believe. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do. But you could also watch New Braunfels kind of shake up some things with one of my favorites in the 2024 class, Parker Joseph, who's a tremendous athlete and great dude. And I'm excited for him to go maybe shock some guys in that district too. So hope for him and the best for New Braunfels Christian. But that's kind of my synopsis of TAPS Division 4 District 2.
Absolutely. It will certainly be interesting, but we will now move into the final district we will cover today. That is TAPS Division 4 District 3, and the rankings go as follows. At number 1, we have the Brazos Christian Eagles. At number 2, we have Northland Christian. At number 3, we have Rose Hill Christian, and at number 4, we have Lutheran North. So Walker, Northland finished on top of this district last year due to an incredible performance from Stone Walker to beat Brazos Christian, which we were both at. This year we have Brazos Christian winning the district. Northland loses Stone Walker and also their prolific running back that really shouldered a large load for them. Brazos Christian obviously loses guys like Ryan Burton and other talented athletes, but they do bring a lot back in the form of Jackson Caffey, Brody Gardner, Chance Locker. There's a ton of guys that are going to be good. They're going to compete for them. I think with as many guys as they bring back, they're a clear number 1 here. Is that what you agree with?
Yeah, for sure. And there's supposedly we keep hearing about all these young guys that are really excited too. And guys like that are going to be really important to see how they do this year. But guys who've also done it for the past couple of years is also really, really impressive. But Northland Christian still has a lot of talent. Travis Gilliand, Rome Stanford, Micah Hall. Guys like that are going to be interesting to watch this year. Yeah, and also 2025 athlete Devin Scott. He's another guy to watch out for in that Houston Northland squad. But they have a couple guys, and it's going to be interesting to see how they do this year, man. They always have talent. The coaching over there is good, so Northland could be something special. But I think we have to take Brazos Christian with some of the talent, and probably in the South, the best player is definitely going to be Brody Gardner in that division, in the South of Division 4. So
I don't know. Coach Wash keeps telling us there's a guy that they're getting that's going to line up opposite of Brody. That's going to be an absolute dog as well, which I want to see.
Yeah, for sure. And we've heard. Yeah, so we have to be watch out for Brazos Christian. Probably go make a practice or something. I have to. So, I'm excited for Brazos Christian. They have the talent, they have the coaching, they have the all of that. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think they take the edge over Northland, but I don't think Northland doesn't come and scrap and fight for trying to get that first place spot again. So
Yeah, but that being said, I mean, both Rose Hill and Lutheran North, not bad teams in the slightest, but I don't think they're going to get it done against I mean, neither Rose Hill and Lutheran North neither beat Brazos Christian or Northland last year. I mean, I think Northland's interesting. I mean, Stone Walker was basically more or less their whole team. He's gone. You still have great athletes like Rome Stanford, but I could see a situation where Rose Hill maybe finishes second. They're not beating Brazos Christian. Lutheran North, I don't think is beating anyone in this district, respectfully. I'm not trying to dog on them, but again, I'm going to call it how I see it. I think this is Brazos Christian's district to lose, and I think I mean, it'll come through in our overall power rankings, but I think Brazos Christian is one of our favorites for the state championship game. I think there are there are four definite state contenders in D4 in the form of Lubbock Christian, First Baptist, Hallettsville Sacred Heart, Brazos Christian. No specific order, but those are my thoughts there. But yeah, that'll more or less close out my thoughts on D4 District 3 and honestly our D3 and D4 power rankings overall. Walker, before we get into the overall power rankings, you have anything you want to leave us with for District 3?
oh no, that's it, man. I think that's a good way to end it.
Alrighty, so before we get out of this episode and before we move out of our second to last ranking, first of all, Walker, shout out to us. We're actually going to get through all of our previews this year. We're not only going to do two and flame out. See, as we get older and wiser, we become more efficient with our work as well. We're actually going to produce the content that we promised. So we're going to unveil our power rankings for all of D3 and D4. Yet again, we've gone in depth on all the districts. We're not going to go through each team and say, this is why they're here. This is why they're here. We just kind of run through it, give maybe a brief comment and then move on. But all
Yeah.
that to say, here are our power rankings for Division 3 and Division 4 combined. Coming in at number 1, Dallas Christian out of Mesquite. At number 2, we have the Cypress Christian Warriors. At number 3, we have Trinity Christian of Lubbock. At number 4, we have Lubbock Christian, the first D4 team to make the list, followed by First Baptist at number 5, the second Division 4 team. At number 6, we have Grace Prep out of Arlington. At number 7, we have San Antonio Holy Cross. Number 8, we have Bay Area Christian, the Mustangs. At number 9, we have the Eagles of Brazos Christian. And rounding out our list at number 10, who I think is our final state contender in D4, Hallettsville Sacred Heart. So, Walker, that's pretty cut and dry. Lubbock Christian coming in at number 4 as a D4 team, I think is very impressive for them. And I think my takeaway from this is our two major things is that DC and Cypress are head and shoulders, I think, above everyone here as of now, maybe with the exception of Trinity Christian Lubbock. And then I think the amount of there are 1, 2, 3, there are 4 D4 teams. That's almost half of this list is D4 teams, which I think speaks to the talent in that division. What do you want to leave us here with regarding the power rankings?
Nah, I always like kind of doing D3 and D4 together because of course they kind of play each other and they compete against each other and I think it's the best way to do it. And yeah, I'm really excited to see how Cypress comes into form going into the state championship because I mean they are poised to meet DC in that state title game in Waco and if they're firing on all cylinders, you could see DC maybe have to compete a little bit harder than they expected. So I'm excited for that. And seeing how this D4 matchup switch out, how does First Baptist play against Lubbock Christian, in district? And that first game against First Baptist versus Brazos Christian is going to set the tone to see how does the South in D4 compare against the North and kind of compete against each other because that's going to be fun to watch. Because Shiner, for 4 straight years, they ran D4 and they came from the South, and then Lubbock Christian finally hit them in the mouth last year and said, "Hey, North got some dogs too." So it's going to be interesting to see how they do it. And that's going to be a kind of a set the tone game for the TAPS Division 4.
Absolutely. I'm incredibly excited. Again, I will preach it to anyone that'll listen until the day I die. There is talent at every level in Texas private schools and just D3 and D4, all the guys that we rattled off, all the Division 1 Power 5 caliber guys in the 2 lowest divisions in TAPS. It speaks for itself. And we are here to uncover and showcase that talent at every avenue. Speaking of all the divisions of TAPS, Walker, you wanted to mention a homeschool team that you
Yes.
found.
No, so the Dallas HSAA, I'm
Mhm.
gonna say Homeschool Association of America or athletics. Athletics was probably the best. I don't know. That's not the
Probably.
point. I'm not gonna talk about the team. I'm talking about three players who were. It's a family. You ready for this? They're twins, and they're 6'5" apiece at Deshaun Davis and Jalen Davis. Both of them are 6'5" twin brothers who are edge rushers. And then there's a third who's a 2026 safety who's going to be probably one of the best safeties in the entire class.
Really?
In Jordan, I'm not even kidding, Jordan Davis. And he
Yeah.
just got offered by OU, and he's a freshman, or he just finished his freshman year. And he just got offered by Baylor, stuff like this, Lamar, and he's a freshman. And I've watched the film. All three are very impressive, and I just wanted to shout these guys out because Deshaun's been offered by Air Force, Army, Brown, Furman, Rice, or PWO to Rice, but like guys like that, like they don't come often in the private school ranks, especially the homeschool ranks. And these guys deserve to be talked about. And I'm just excited for these guys to succeed. And I it's always interesting. And if these guys see this, I would love to let you like tell me like how do you kind of decide to do the homeschool route, and how is that working out for y'all in your recruitment? Because it looks like it does really well. And I think Wes, I don't know if you remember, but I think like one of those games we went and saw them in the morning at Brazos Christian, that the homeschool team played right afterwards, and we probably
Yeah,
saw
yeah, yeah.
them, and we just didn't really think anything of it. But like these guys were really talented, and I just wanted to give these guys some love. They deserve it. And I wish the best in y'all's recruitments, especially those guys who are seniors. And yeah, shout out to them. And I would love to do 6-man, guys. And for all your 6-man fans out there, we just don't know anything about it. I know Covenant Classical looks really, really good this year, as always. And so if there's any 6-man fans out there that would love to help us out on an episode, let us know. But yeah.
Absolutely. That being said, we're also in the process. We are still to follow up on the message we sent out last episode. We're still looking for interns. We're contacting schools regarding that. And if you have a passion like me, Walker, and Ryan do for sports journalism or for just promoting coverage, you don't even have to be specifically interested in sports journalism.
Yep.
I wasn't. I like private school sports so much that I just made a podcast about East Texas private school sports, and it ended up here. But that being said, if you are interested and you're passionate about us, we could absolutely use your help. We're trying to gather students or just anyone that's interested across the entire state to help us produce higher quality content, whether that's covering games that you're close to, whether that's writing articles, whether that's helping us write stories or making graphics. We can absolutely find a place for you, and we really, really would like your help. So yet again, we had some interests because of what we said last episode. Thank you for everyone that reached out to us. We'll be getting back to you shortly if we haven't by the time you've seen this. But yet again, if you are interested in working in an intern capacity for us, helping us out, more importantly, getting some experience, getting some work experience before you go off to college or wherever you want to go, it's a great opportunity for that. Yet again, the best way to get at us regarding that, you should be able to find our socials, our Instagram, our Twitter, on the screen. It's just at TXPS Podcast. And then also our email is txpspodcast@gmail.com. Contact us via any of those mediums. We will absolutely be in contact with you to see how you can help out. But Walker, that being said, yeah, that is our D3 and D4 preview. We will have one more preview with our SBC preview with the very, very gracious help of Jack Klosek and Alex Leswade. We're very thankful for those guys. And you'll get to see them on episode next preview. But Walker, that's a lot of talking from the both of us.
Yep.
Closing thoughts.
No, I'm while talking about this, I'm more and more excited about these levels, and they have some good matchups that I'm really excited to see. And yeah, I guess that's really it, man. I'm really, really excited about the season. We're already starting to make our schedules, and I'm trying to hit all the levels. So I'm excited for that and try to make a couple games for the Division 4 level. So yeah, excited. I guess that's really it.
I think excited is the best word to leave this episode on. We are so close to the season starting. Guys, I'll tell you this, even after even after you leave high school football and you hang the pads up and you're done forever, the feeling of Friday night doesn't leave. Anytime you're around it, there's something special in the air, and going back to cover every Friday, I feel it. And it's what keeps me coming back for more. There's nothing more than we love. There's nothing that we love more than covering the sport, getting y'all attention. It's a beautiful thing, and we love doing it. So all of that being said, as always, I've been half of your hosting crew, Wes Tolleson. Walker Lott has fantastically been himself. We will see you next week with Alex Aswade and Jack Klosek for the SPC preview. See you later.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!